folks at home, take a look at this. The Dow behind me right now, triple-digit gains at this hour on this. We had a very strong employment report, nearly 250,000 jobs created last month. And there's something for everybody in the report. The unemployment rate increased to 9%, but jobs were added. Our all-star panel is here to explain. And it's whiplash for oil traders after a dramatic fall. Crude now coming back today. Plus, we're going to meet the nuns who are trying to break Goldman Sachs of its high executive pay habits. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Cheryl Casoni. Joining me for the entire hour today, I've got James Frischling, co-founder and president of NewOak's Capital, and Paul Vigna, news editor at the Dow Jones Newswires. We begin with the information you need right now to make some money, make a few trades. Jim, let's talk about corporate America. We saw a huge growth, in particular, just from February to now. If you compile the jobs reports together, more than 2 million jobs created in the private sector. So it's American companies that are doing the hiring, not the government.
And this is a good number. This number exceeded expectations handily. And yes, it was pretty much dominated and all done in the private sector. But it's not a number that I'm prepared to celebrate for some of the reasons that just quickly came up. But the participation rate is unchanged at 64.2. The number of people absolutely unemployed is unchanged. And that real unemployment rate, that U6 as we refer to it at, actually went up. So while it's a good number, the market's enjoying it. But I'm not going to spike the football. We got a long way to go, I think, is where we stand.
But if we can get a break there, we can reignite the jobs number. You add that to the report, the number looks that much more rosy.
Now, Jim, you're nodding your head in agreement on this one.
Well, I am in agreement. And I also think the importance of today's report was there was a lot of pressure building on commodity prices, on food prices, and the concern the economy actually was slowing. And I think a bad report would have been actually a pretty tough punch for the market to take. But I think the better than expected report at least is going to bring this week to a better close.
I need to bring in Paul, the skeptical journalist. Come on here, help me out.
It's more than just the commodity prices. All the economic data the last couple of weeks, the last month or so, has pointed to a slowing economy. You saw it in the GDP report, came in at 1.8. That's essentially stall speed. It's great that oil's down, but it's down about $10 from where it was a week ago, which was, again, a very high level. The jobs number was good. The question is, can it be sustained? We saw strong jobs numbers last spring. They were not sustained. Can they be sustained? That's still a very open question. You know, I like John's points. I certainly want to believe him. But let's take this out. Let's take this down from the numbers level to a real level. You saw this month McDonald's made a big deal. They had a hiring day. They had 50,000 jobs, ended up hiring 62,000 people. They had 1 million people apply for those jobs. 1 million people applied for jobs at McDonald's, which I don't want to disparage anybody's work, but you know that's not a living wage that you're making at McDonald's. You're not getting paid a lot of money. That is the problem. That's a fundamental problem with the economy. We're not creating enough of the kinds of jobs that provide a living wage, that allows somebody to raise a family. It's great that we created a lot of private sector jobs. You want to see them in manufacturing. You're not creating enough jobs that are going to provide those kinds of wages.
And you know, Dan, I can see you. I'm sorry, that might have been you, but Dan, I can see you really taking that into effect in your forecast at your job.
Yeah, I mean, I would say two things. First, with respect to what Paul had to say, I implore everyone to go online and find the videos of people who went to apply for the jobs at McDonald's. Some of them contain riots, was how much people wanted these jobs. But secondly, I think Paul's point is exactly the important takeaway. Listen, 200,000+ jobs is great, but at the end of the day, the money people are making is not sufficient. And I think at the end of the day, as I referred to before with Nicole, it's one of the major reasons why the stock market keeps going up. But something, depending on the survey, 50-60% of people still think we're in a recession. It's because people haven't seen tangible income gains that will help them keep pace with the increase in food prices, the increase in gasoline prices, and the increase in prices more generally, to the extent that they materialize in the future. There's a real problem right there.
John Challenger, I mean, comment on that, because they're both gentlemen are bringing up the issue of these really aren't high-paying jobs. Do you see that changing?
See, I'm not buying that. Yeah, we've got unemployment for African Americans at over 15%, Hispanics at around 11%, high school grads at 9+%, and these people need jobs too. So we are creating jobs at all levels. College grad unemployment, is in the 4% kind of range, and so people with skills are finding employment. So, I mean, how do you get good news coming out of a recession? When you say, we know we've been through one of the deepest recessions in a long time, and every time there's a very positive job report, you say, well, it's still bad out there. Well, we are getting better. We're seeing improvement. you have two kind of things to look at. What's the general situation, and that is there's still a long way to go, and we know we've dug that hole for ourselves. And then what happened in the last month? And the last month really was very positive.
Jim Frischling, long way to go?
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to settle this, make it 2-on-2. I'm going to be more in John's camp in that it is a good number. I think there are certain things that are beneficial to Wall Street that are at times incongruent and difficult to Main Street. One of them is making employers are getting more out of their employees without necessarily compensating them, let's say, fully. But the fact remains, and also I say the weaker dollar helps U.S. companies at times export goods and the low interest rates. The fact remains is it was a good number. And now I think the question is it sustainable? Are we building on this? What will the next report look like? So again, I'm not saying everything's behind us. We do have a long way to go, but I believe this was a positive step.
And John Challenge.
Silver, gold, oil, they got crushed yesterday. Now Goldman, Deutsche, Barclays, they can afford to get crushed. They'll come back. A regular person, me, you, we can't afford to get crushed like that.
If I was playing it, though, on a day-to-day basis, Jim, and maybe if I watch Fox Business enough, I know that I can't be playing things day-to-day, but I can make smart investment choices like OSX, like energy companies that are attached to crude. And when crude goes up, a lot of the big names, Chevron, Oxy, go higher. I do profit from that, though.
And I agree you do. And I also have been watching OPEC coming out talking about the range they think that oil should be playing it in kind of that 90 to 100 range. And they don't think there is a supply issue. And despite all the turmoil in the Middle East, they feel there is an ample supply. If anything, it's the U.S. own policies that might be hampering, let's say, some of our supply side. But I don't disagree with Paul that it is a very tough market. And when Goldman and a lot of these firms are basically telling you at one point it's toppish and then you have a 20% decline, you're going to get whipped around. But for example, at these current levels, I'm not panicked right now for retail investors to take exposure.
And
even if it's true, even if she could document it all, she should not have gotten $1 million loan on $140,000 annual income. She just shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I mean, what I take away from this is what was going on in 2007, 2006, 2005 was the fact that the central bank had made money so cheap to borrow. They made money literally worth less. And when you do that to money, people stop treating it like it's very dear to them. The banks were not treating this money as if it mattered to them because they were borrowing it so cheaply.
But not to defend Credit Suisse, but they raised issues. Why did we buy this particular loan from the originator to include in the package, in the bond that we are now selling to our investors?
Look, I'm not trying
and that's
to say,
why they're being sued.
I'm not trying to say it's just Credit Suisse. I'm saying my
no, it's not.
takeaway
JP
from
Morgan
this,
Chase, too.
Yeah, it was everybody.
SEC has subpoenaed Credit Suisse and JP Morgan Chase on the issue of liar loans. That's what this is a liar loan.
And I think the real issue I'm looking at here, away from the stripper, is it is an investor suing the arranger bank. And there was information that they're saying the investors were duped. Meanwhile, I did a little desktop research, and I will tell you that the high-end salary desktop,
specify that,
a stripper in Charlotte, North Carolina, high-end $75,000. In New York, high-end $92,000, all desktop research. If I could find that information, then did the investor look for it? Did the arranger provide it? And my point is it comes down to who secured the information that was provided to the investors. Did the investors have access to fair information? Because at the end of the day, this is a legal dispute between a buyer and a seller. And the question is going to come down to was fraud committed.
keep it to 10 seconds and keep it clean, Adam.
Where's the David Rose music? Where's isn't it David Rose who had the famous song, The Stripper?
I don't know.
Wasn't David Rose?
But did you know that actually there's a national pole dancing championship? I saw it on TV.
I missed.
I'm just saying. I saw it on like ESPN or somewhere. Who knew that there was a
Ocho.
national
It's going to be an
pole
Olympic
dancing
sport, right?
championship sport out there? Adam Shapiro. It's a great story. Thank you very much, Adam. Great to have you on the show.